Hey, it's Angela Wolf here, and we are behind the scenes. And I got to tell you, you almost got a full show with Craft Optics because I just finished painting my nails, gave myself a pedicure. It wasn't the plan for today, but I was talking to my sister Julie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so nice out. She said, yeah, what do your toes look like? I'm like, oh, not so good. So I called the nail salon, and they're closed. So I decided to just sport it myself, threw on my Craft Optics, painted my nails, and we're ready to sew. So hopefully it's all dry. All right, so today I've got a really fun show for you today. We're going to be sewing, we're going to be serging, we're going to be doing a little pressing, cutting. You know what that is. So I'm live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So if you're on any of those, please subscribe or like the page because then you'll never miss a live show. If I'm running late, if I change the date, you'll get notified way before I ever get a newsletter out. All right, so I see you all rolling in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Say hi, say where you're from. And guess what I did this week? Well, besides paint my nails, I actually cleaned my whole studio. I have a little corner over here of fabric to fold, but I did this for a few reasons. One, I was looking for an unfinished project. And guess what I found? Oh, let's see. 2 or 3 bins of UFO projects. So I have a feeling the next few weeks of behind the scenes, I might as well just finish these while you're on there because half of them I started with you. I just never finished. So it's going to be UFO week. And actually, Amy, I saw your post. I didn't even see it. My sister said, remember that cute top? I found the next Fashion Sewing Club item for next month, and I'll just share that with you now. Fashion Sewing Club tomorrow, our meeting is at 2. And my sister just texted this to me. I forgot about this outfit. What to wear with white jeans. Yes, so I'm finishing up the pattern or pattern hack, I should say. And Fashion Sewing Club, this is what we're going to do next. Now, do you have to have it sleeveless? No, but there's a lot of techniques in this too because it's a woven, and then we're going to hand dye it. So next month in Fashion Sewing Club, we're going to make a hot mess. So thank you, Amy, for the suggestion. All right, so let's get down to some UFO projects. I'm going to show you, making sure you got all the sound. Yep. This is what we're working on. Do you remember this tank top? And I can't remember if we did the collar in Fashion Sewing Club or if we did it behind the scenes. I don't know. But I've been wearing it under a sweater and the sleeves edges are not finished. So, you know, half the time I don't have my tops because I'm just finishing them before the show. But to leave my armholes open, that's a little bit bad. I'm not that bad. So we're going to prep it for hemming and we're going to do the binding. And you know, yesterday I was sewing with some girls and the binding for armholes, if you don't do it correctly, what happens? You end up with the bottom bagging out, or you end up with a bunch of wrinkles right here. So I'm going to give you some tips for that. And also, while we're talking about knit tops, I just want to let you all know, Darlene, I don't know if you're on here, hello. Her and her ASG group have invited me. I will be teaching for 2 hours Monday night, this coming Monday, but any of you can join. There's a link on, if you follow me on Crowdcast, you'll see it there. And you can join the class. ASG members get a discount because it's for ASG. And we're going to be talking about knit tops, sewing with different knits as well, different than what we've talked about. There's a lot of new knits out there. So that's this coming Monday, 6:30, I think, to 8:30 Eastern, just on the side note. All right, so we're going to work on this top, and I'm going to prep it for hemming. So let's get started. Ask your questions, roll along, because I'll come back and scan those too. And I see a lot of you here from the jeans class. Oh, did we have fun yesterday? Have you seen the jeans that the Wolfpack is making? Oh my goodness, I'm impressed. I'm totally impressed. So I'm very excited about that. All right, so let's go sew this and then I'll come back and take your questions, all right? Okay, so here is the top. So this is what I have finished so far. And I think we did this in Fashion Sewing Club. I'll have to go back. If there's any members here, will you just let me know if that's where we did this? So we did a collar, a little different. It almost looks like a hoodie in the back. See how fun this is? I do have this fabric. I got another bolt of this fabric. So you can find that on the app. If you go to Angela Wolf Patterns, I think I still have it on sale. Along with, I have 20 new bolts coming. You all are going to be very excited when you see these new fabrics coming in. All right, so that's the back side. It's not the twisted collar. So I used the ruche tee. I just made this collar longer, a little bit wider, and took advantage of the snakeskin look. So the armholes is what I need to finish. Now, I think I was considering putting sleeves on this, but I have to tell you, I wear this all the time, sleeveless under sweaters, and now that it's summer, I know I'm going to wear it with my jeans. So let's just finish this up as a tank top. I also need to prep the hem, and if you look closely, I hemmed this a little bit longer in the back, but I'm going to adjust that as well. So make sure I got a weird stitch right there. Oh, check this out. Speaking of UFO projects, oh my goodness gracious. Are you all looking at this? Okay, the shoulders are finished. What's wrong here? I basted the side seams. I haven't even sewn the top together, and I've been wearing it like this. Oh, does this take the cake or what? Okay, all of my laughing emojis. I left the door there for you in case the squirrel came up and you could let me know, but I have to tell you, that is pretty funny. I've been wearing it with a basting stitch. Do you know, all it would take is like one stretch, opening one beer, anything like that, grabbing a fishing rod, and my shirt would have been wide open. Oh boy, I think we have more to finish on this UFO project than I thought. So let's go back. I see it, I know. Oops, that's pretty bad. Okay, well, I guess we're going to sew the side seams too. So let's get rolling. We got more to do than I thought. All right, well, I'm really glad I noticed that, because if I'd sewn my arms in without sewing the side seams, that would have really been really stupid. Okay, one more thing I want to do while I have this top here. If you look at this closely, since I'm going to make this a tank top, right now it looks like it's a regular shoulder once I add the binding. I'd like it to be a little bit more, not a racer back, but a little more stylish on the tank. So I'm going to cut that. I'm not going to use the rotary cutter for this because I just want to make sure that the front is fine. I like the front to cover, you know, my front and my bra straps, but the back, I want to change the back up a little bit. So whenever I cut off the back, I have to do one side, I have to do to the other. And since I've already added the collar, this could be a little tricky. But there's no challenge too big, right? So I'm starting at the shoulder, and I'm just going to cut in just a little bit, just to give it a little sportier look in the back. How's that? All right, so this piece here that I just cut off, let's move this over here to this side. And if you think that that's blood on my fingers, no, it's nail polish. The Craft Optics help me to paint my nails, but that doesn't mean that I don't make a really big mess. Trust me, I did not miss my calling. It's just painting out of necessity and funness since it's summer. All right. So you can see why I'm using the scissors instead of the rotary cutter, because I'm just cutting the back, hopefully. Okay, so now the back, it's not really, I wouldn't really call that a racer back, but I definitely changed it up a little bit. Make sure that's pretty even. That looks pretty good. All right, now I have a bunch of these little strips cut. So potentially I could use these, but I'm going to cut one more strip just in case I need it when I go to the ironing board. And I had a handful of you email me asking me about my rulers. So I'm going to show you again how these work. All right, I'm just going to make sure that this is laying from selvage to selvage. I didn't cut this piece. This was just an extra piece that was laying in my stash. So it's not cut even. But I do want to make sure that I'm cutting it from grain line to grain line, because then it will have a good stretch. This is a knit. And if you look on the website, on the app, I don't remember what this is under, but I think it's a snakeskin knit. You can definitely tell what this is. So I've got one ruler here for 1.5 inches. I'm going to look for my 2-inch. I like to have a little more width on my binding. So when I fold it in half, that'll be 1 inch. And then if I sew right in the middle of that binding, it gives me a good base, even if I sew or I serge, whichever one you're doing. And then that gives me my final binding at, do the math, 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it ends up being 1/2 inch. All right. Cut down that. You know how tricky it is to sew on knits? All right. So that looks pretty good. And yes, these are the Angela Wolf rulers. You can find them on the website. Many of you have them. So some of you asked how to use them exactly. I just showed you. And then what you could do is you can keep moving this down and cutting more if you want, but it holds. This went through 2 layers of knit. I wasn't even holding this and cut through this. It just makes cutting strips for knit fabric, for binding, for bias strips, anything like that, so easy. It's like a rubber base on here. So I hope that answers the questions of the emails I got. And hopefully you're watching and then I don't have to return your email. Actually, I will anyways, because I like to say hi. So here's a strip, and then I have a few other strips right here. Let me make sure that these are all the same width. If not, these are kind of curled. I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut one more strip while I'm here. Actually, I used 2 inch. There we go. I'm just going to cut this first and then I'll trim it to shorter. I'm at a weird angle with the camera, so in case you're wondering, why did you just do it that way? Because I can't come around that side. I would normally cut from that side. All right, now. Okay, we've got 2 strips for the binding. And are you wondering, why didn't you measure the armhole before you cut the binding? I always just cut long strips. It's easier, and we'll measure when we go to the ironing board. All right. Hey, Darlene. You haven't heard from the craft. Lynn got your email immediately, so I will double check that I gave her the right email. If you gave, whatever you gave me, I copied and pasted her, so I'll double check with her. All right. Yes, and congratulations, by the way. So now, before I can add my cool binding to my armholes, I'm going to serge my side seams. I know that in kids' clothes and some ready-to-wear, you can actually sew the binding in first and then sew that whole side seam. It's not my preferred way. I prefer a little bit more polished look. So that's why we're going to do it this way. So let's go to the serger and let's serge these side seams. I've got it all ready for you. And then we'll go to the ironing board. Oh, I just saw someone say, are you fussy cutting? No, because if you look at this, it's going to be the same all the way around. So it won't matter. But I can pick what sections I want on the armhole. So I guess that is kind of fussy cutting. All right, now I have a beige thread in here. That'll be fine. But yeah, I'm using a 3 thread. This will be fine for the tank. Sometimes I'll use a 4 thread if it's going to be an active wear or something like that, it just gives it a little more sturdiness. But for now, this will be fine. The beige thread you're never going to see. And I actually left that in there because I knew that you'd see the binding. But now it's actually the whole top's going to be like that. It's going to be like it was planned. So I'm set up for a 3-thread wide overlock. If you don't want that, then I would go with a 4-thread. And I'm doing a stitch right along this basting line. Make sure all my settings are right. I was doing a decorative stitch earlier, a faux piping stitch. Have you ever done that? I love that stitch. But if you don't change your settings back, your thread looks really bad. All right, and I can see that this basting stitch is pulling. So I just want to make sure that I get rid of that. I'm just going to cut that basting stitch right here. You can see how it's puckering at the bottom. I probably backstitched to save it for ruching or something, but you know what? Today's a new day. All right, that stitch looks really nice. You can see it. It's beige, so you definitely can see it. And I can either pull that basting stitch out or leave it on the shirt. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to go anywhere. And it's not the main seam. But obviously, I was a pretty sturdy one if I've been wearing it and I didn't end up in the oops section. So I'm just pulling that basting stitch out. That's pretty good. I'll work on it later. Let's do the other side. If you're asking me what seam allowance is, what pattern I'm using, I'm assuming that I either used the Bella or the Ruche T to start this. And I know that the top fit perfect with this binding, but it was also a little loose, so it's okay that I'm cutting a little bit off. Again, this was out of my UFO project, so who knows how long this has been here. Well, I haven't had the fabric that long, so it can't be too long, but it's been there for a while. All right, so I have both seams done. You can see how they stretch a little bit, which is what I want. That's why you use the serger. If you're using a sewing machine, use the zigzag stitch. And if you've never sewn with knits before, you might want to go to my academy and take the Essential Guide to Sewing Knits. It shows you how to sew this on a serger and a sewing machine. Okay. And then, of course, Monday night. All right, so let's go to the ironing board. Let's prep these and see where we're going to put these. All right, any questions? Oh, was it the serger? Was he being Blinky? I see, Marcia. I think Blinky just doesn't like the serger. I don't know why. Or he's so busy watching. I don't know. I just named my camera. All right, so let's go to the ironing board, and I'll show you how I prep this. Okay. So for the armholes, I know I'm going to need this much. Let me just darken my camera up. Sorry about that. Thought you were on the beach, right? I like to press my binding in half first. It's not necessary, but I find it much easier to attach. And yes, this is a knit. No, I'm not stretching as I press, and I am using an iron shoe. This is the Laura Star iron. There's an iron shoe underneath so it won't damage my fabric. And then the clapper will make it stay a nice crease right there, ready to serge into place. I see there's a hole right there. That's probably why I had that fabric on the side. So I want to make sure I don't use that part. Let me see if the hole is in the seam allowance, or is it in, nope, it's right there. Well, that might be why this piece was in the UFO projects, or it was, you know what, the panel that I had there, whenever I get a new bolt of fabric, I'll cut off the first like quarter of a yard, because usually there's a tag. That's probably where the tag was. So is this going to be big enough for one armhole? Drum roll, please. Yes. Yay. All right. Now let's press the other half of this one then. So I really didn't need 2 strips after all, just one. The other reason I like pressing this before I attach it is I can tell if I've cut it crooked, which I don't, not with my rulers. But if I did cut it crooked at all, it would show up here. And maybe it was off skewed a little bit, or if it didn't look like it was right on the, this is the cross grain. So see how it stretches? All right. So let's take a look at what, speaking of fussy cutting, I'm going to match up these up. So the front will have the same, it'll look the same from armhole to armhole. Now that doesn't mean it's going to look the same on the top. So let's see what our top looks like. Okay. There's the armhole. So if I start this up here, well, I actually could try to line this up. With this. So if I have this right here, and if the top of my armhole, if I want this to be about right there, does that look pretty good, pretty even? Actually, look at, that is pretty even, because this matches up here, this goes straight across. So this is going to be the top. Now I'm going to show you how I pin this and how I measure my armhole. I haven't sewn the binding together yet, right? So let me pin this up here. I better double check. Yes, I did serge my shoulder seams. Okay, so that's one armhole. And let's go ahead and pin the other one in place so I know that my design is the same on both. So when this flips open, that still looks good there. So right now I've got raw edge to raw edge. And I need to do the same thing to this side. So let's see if I can match this up. So about right here. There you go. Here's the shoulder, right where my hand is right here. So I'll bring that over to this side, pin it to the shoulder, and let's just see how close we are. Now, depending on what kind of pins you have, I'm using silk pins. You don't usually use pins on knits, but whenever I'm live, I always do because I can never seem to get this to the serger without something falling. Is that pretty close? Yeah, because this isn't even lined up here. It's pretty close. It's close enough that I can survive with it. Okay, so now that I have the shoulder pinned, I'm going to pin down. Now here's the kicker. When I'm pinning the binding on my armhole, if you do not want puckering, you don't stretch the binding up in the shoulder area at all, like 0. It's binding to fabric 1 to 1, if you know what that means. So 1 to 1 means this is the same length as this, where my pin is going. And around to the front. The only place you're going to stretch, and for the armhole, you're just stretching a little bit, is your underarm area. And that will help secure this from popping out. So I've pinned it all the way around except for the underarm. And let me figure out where I need to sew together my binding. So if I walk this down to my underarm area, hopefully you can see this okay. It's a lot of decorative thread or decorative fabric. I'm putting a snip right at my underarm seam. See that snip there? And no, that's not blood. It's nail polish on my finger. All right, now let's walk this side down. Okay, notice I have not stretched that at all yet, but I have a snip here and a snip on the other one that I'm going to match up at the serger. And I'm going to cut that section off because I want this binding to be a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller, so I can stretch my binding and keep that underarm area from stretching out. So take your binding. I pin everything at the ironing board first and then go to the serger. So there's my snip and there's my snip. I can see them both right here. See those? So I will just mark that right at the snips. And then when I go to serge, I'm just going to cut off those snips probably in, I don't take it in a full inch, but remember that's 2 pieces right there. So I'll cut it in about just under 1/2 inch. So that'll make this a little smaller and I can pull it to stretch to my underarm area. That is, if you ever learn one tip for sewing knits, that is probably the biggest helpful hint. Let me make sure I have enough fabric here on this to go to the underarm. I do. Okay. So again, here's my shoulder seam. I'm just matching this up 1 to 1. And when I get to the underarm area, I don't think you really need to see that whole process again, so I'm just going to give myself a snip so I know where it is. And let's cut this. So there's one snip. And I do notice that this side seam is not quite even, so I'm just going to get rid of some of that fabric to make a nice curve at my underarm. And then over here, this just hits the underarm area, but I'm not cutting a new piece, so I'm just going to cut this off and let's see how much extra room. It was more important for me to match up that pattern than my seam at the underarm seam for here. So it looks like, what is that? One end's here and one end's here. That's just under 1 inch, so I'll just serge this together then. This will be fine. And it'll give me enough to stretch. So I'm doing this one a little bit different than the other. This is how you say we're going to make this fabric work for a UFO project. I'll serge about right there, and let me make sure that's not too much. Nope, that will fit fine. All right, so we're going to go to the serger, finish the binding here, fold it in half, and then attach the binding to each armhole. I'll meet you at the serger. Ask your questions, though, if you have any questions. All right, any questions? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mary. This is one of my old Delilahs, but I live in it. I'm going to have to make a few more because the fabric is starting to get a little bit old. It is very old. All right, any questions before I go to the ironing board? Yeah, this fabric is blue. It's like a really dark blue. It looked really good with jeans. So I just posted a new snake skin that looks like this, just so you know. If you saw something come through on the app today, I found 3 pieces of 2 yards. So that's what I have to, I'm just putting them up for sale because I've already made an outfit out of this. So this is the black one, and this is black and gray. The one I have here is blue and gray. Okay, So don't get confused. There's two different ones on the app. All right, let's go to the serger and see if we can get this finished. And hopefully Blinky will behave. I have got the squeakiest sandals on today. You can hear me about a mile away. All right, so there's my pin. I'm just going to serge that. A little bit inside the pin is where I'm serging. And then the next thing I do before I stop, though, because I have pins all the way around except for at the bottom, right? I'm going to check and make sure that there's, yes, see what the difference is? There's my fabric and there's my binding. So I can stretch my binding just at the bottom, which will help that armhole from stretching out. Now it's okay that I'm using not the right thread because you're not going to see the thread anyways. It's going to be inside your garment. Of course, if I wasn't doing a UFO project and trying to show you, I would change the thread. I would probably either change it to white or black. I don't know. I mean, dark navy. Now I'm serging, just getting rid of about 1/4 of an inch. So my binding will be a little bit more than 1/2 of an inch at this point. Making sure that I get all the pins out of the way. You don't want to serge over a pin. I tell some new sewers, if you're really new to this and you're really nervous about sewing the binding, you might want to sew it with the sewing machine first, just to make sure it's laying right. Sometimes this knit fabric is really difficult to handle when you get to the serger. It can get a little slinky is the word. Not slimy, slinky. All right, so I have no more pins. I'm making sure the bottom is out of the way. At first I thought, uh-oh, no, we're good. So this is the underarm area. This is where I'm going to stretch. So I'm just stretching the binding to match the fabric, and this is just for about maybe 4 inches at the underarm. All right, let's see if we have any boo-boos. Oh, that really looks nice. So see how this just folds right to the inside? And because we stretch at the bottom, it pulls that underarm seam up instead of it flopping out, if you've ever had that happen. And also, because we did not stretch it at all at the shoulder seam, there's no puckers up through here on either side. All right, let's go to the other underarm. Where are you? Okay, so I need to double check. First, I'm going to serge this and then just double check that it's tight enough. So here's my binding, right sides together. And then I'm going to hold this and just double check that it's tight enough. This could be a little tighter. See how the binding is almost bigger than the fabric? So this must be the other one that I marked. I should have serged in just a little bit. You want the binding to be shorter. If the binding's bigger than your top, then what happens? You end up with a big old gaposis. New word for the day. See if that's better. Oh, much better. All right, so let's go attach this binding. We already have pins in there. Let's get your pins out of the way. fabric is definitely slinky. All right, now we're getting to the underarm area, so I will stretch just a little bit. Well, as much as you need to make sure that the binding matches the fabric of the garment. Uh-oh. Sorry about Blinky. Yes, Joanna, Gabosis, it must have freaked Blinky out because he shut right off. Definitely. That's the word for the day. All right, so let's take a look. And then the last thing we're going to do is press up the hem for hemming. But look at how nice this looks. So here's one armhole. This lays nice and flat. There's no wrinkles, right? And look at the underarm. It just tucks right in. You'll know right away without even putting this on if the underarm starts to stick out. So see how nicely that lays? Beautiful. Let's go back to the ironing board, take another look at it a little closer, and press up the hem. Any squirrels out there? I left his lunch out there. I don't see him. Oh, there you go, Helen. You can try it. Oh, there you go, Terry. I'm glad. Slinky, definitely. Yes, Melody, this machine is super easy to thread. In fact, yesterday I rethreaded it, oh gosh, 5 times. I just tie the threads off and pull them through. I have a YouTube video. Are you on YouTube? No, you're on Facebook. So Melody, go to my YouTube channel. Just look up Angela Wolf or go to angelawolf.com and you can find my social pages on there, especially if you go to the blog. Click on YouTube and search under my channel. I actually show how to thread that serger. I'll try to find the link too, and I'll include it in my newsletter, which is going out tomorrow morning. So I'll include that video. So if you're on my newsletter list, you'll see it. You can click on it and watch. It's super easy to thread, super easy, and very easy to use. And it comes with quite a bit of feet, quite a few, not quite a bit, quite a few. All right. I got it. I see. Jody, what pattern did I start with here? I think, now this is a UFO project. It's been around for a while, but I think, and the Wolfpack, well, you're Wolfpack, but anybody in the Fashion Sewing Club might remember, what did I start with? The ruche tee. Let me see how low the neckline is. Yes, I started with the ruche tee for this. And then I made a different collar in the Fashion Sewing Club. So I pattern hacked a little bit. And then I just left the sleeves off, and then you saw the rest. So let's go to the ironing board. Keep your questions rolling in, though. I'll come back and answer them when we'll have a few minutes at the end. I got her, Helen. Oh, thanks, Jody. I'm so glad. Well, you might learn a lot this summer because I have a whole box of UFO projects, and they're all going to get finished, including a sweater I need to send to Susan. Maybe we'll get it done by this fall, right? All right, so here's the hem. Now, I do not put anything in my knit hems. I don't put stickiness. I don't put glue. I don't put anything. This is so simple. I give it a little steam using an iron with an iron shoe. Tailor's clapper to press. This gives such a beautiful crease. And because I'm using an iron shoe, which you can get these, you can pick these up anywhere. Well, a couple places. For inexpensive, they have all different kinds. If you get a more expensive iron, sometimes they come with it, which is nice. I can't really take it off because this is hot. It just clips on. Actually, I take that back. There's my iron shoe. Ooh, she's got a lot of lint under there. How do you like that? Okay, and it just clips like this. And if any of you need a link for my Laura Star iron, let me know. All right, and I'm going around, a little steam, tailor's clapper. And I believe by feeling this, I think this is, I would guess this is a rayon knit. I'm not 100%, I don't have it in front of me with the bolt, but I would be willing to guess it's a rayon knit because just the softness of it. But even this clapper idea with pressing works on an ITY knit, a polyester knit. I'm giving a lot more tips for sewing knits in the Monday night class. So if you're around Monday night, grab a glass of wine and join us. And that will be in tomorrow's newsletter as well. So thanks, Darlene, for bringing me to your ASG group. All right, so this is pressed up, and I will run this through the cover stitch. If you don't have a cover stitch machine, then you're going to want to use a twin needle with a sewing machine because then it'll still stretch when you put it on. But this is all ready to run through the machine. And look at this crease. If you've ever tried to put a knit through the cover stitch or sewing, if you don't have that crease, what happens? When you fold this under, it'll move around. If you've ever had a knit top where you have a hem and it's kind of twisted, I'm trying to even mess it up, I can't. It's kind of twisted like that. That's what you don't want. By having this pressed crease, it'll go right through the machine, stitch from the right side, and I'm ready to go. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick look at the armholes. Let's see what this looks like. Look at how beautiful these look. So here's the shoulder. There's no puckering at all. No puckering on the back side. And at the bottom, you can see where I stretch the binding to match because there's more of the top than there is at the bottom. And that looks great. Let's see the other underarm. Looks good. And what about underneath the arm? Perfect. So after I hem this, I'll be ready to go, and I'm just going to give you a quick look. So we'll hold that thought for a second. What color thread do I have on there? Ooh. Black. And I'm not in the mood to rethread that right now because we are running out of time. So the cover stitch is going to have to wait for my hem until later today. But I do want to give you a little peek at my cleaning. So hold on a second. Hold that thought. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to give you just a quick preview. If Blinky doesn't not behave, I cleaned all my shelves. I even put, you can see a little UFO project there on my, that's not a purse, that's a top that needs finishing. I pulled out my green Chloe trench, which I just need to finish the armholes. We'll do that next so I can wear it because it's perfect weather for that. I put new fabric up. Yeah, there's my one bin of UFO projects. I organized my cutting table. This is like scary. It's so clean. I should have a party or something, right? Hung up all my patterns. And I even went around all the way back here. I have not gotten to my office, so don't look back there. That one's next. I cleaned out the other ironing station. Here's another cutting table. I organized all the bins. You can see my P-Touch in action there. Got my dress forms. So that's kind of somewhat of a 360 view of cleanup in Angela Wolf's studio. Now, believe it or not, I actually can find things. So this morning I needed a couple things. I've got a bin with rotary cutters. I've labeled everything. Wowzer. It's frightening. It's so organized. All right, so let me see if you have any questions for me. Thank you. Thanks, Patty. I was so busy on Monday. In fact, my husband said, what are you doing? I said, I'm cleaning. It's like 4 o'clock. He goes, you're still cleaning? I go, yes. I did not think. I think, I don't know, 50 trips down to the basement to organize fabric, ordered new fabric, made room for it. I told my husband on Tuesday, I'm probably not going to be able to move. I'm going to be so sore. It's going to be scary. Thanks, Marcy. I know, Susan. It's shocking. Jody, yeah, I offer pickup at my studio. I sure do. Are you in Michigan? That'd be great. Jackie, what are your thoughts about putting knit interfacing in knit binding for hems and neckbands? So Jackie, I don't do that at all. So my opinion on that is it restricts the stretch. And I, to this date, have never seen a knit top through the years of making ready to wear, couture, all of these items. Of course, couture isn't really knits, but high-end knit tops. Even tops that I ripped apart that I bought in stores to see how they were made. That's how I learned how to sew years ago. I've never seen one that has that. Maybe a jacket, a knit jacket, sure. But binding and hems, no. First of all, if you put interfacing in there, even if you're using Fusin-Knit, which stretches a little bit, unless it's like the most unruly fabric ever, what's going to happen after you wash it? It's going to start to pull away from the fabric. You're going to end up with little bubbles. And I mean, that's my personal preference. Now, I know a lot of instructors that swear by it. Not me. And also, I don't ever have that stuff laying around. I mean, I have fusible interfacing for my jackets and stuff, but I don't have the other. And also, you just saw how easy it was to press up the hem. That was nothing in it. I can run it through the machine and it's fine. I don't have to worry about any faux pas. So thank you for asking that. But that's my personal opinion. I don't judge others that do it. That's just my personal opinion. Joanna, how long did it take you? Well, I'm not finished yet. I didn't show you this side of the studio. Did you notice that? I only showed you that side. I did finish the kitchen, the laundry room, the workout area. So I have like 3 bins left. It took from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. And then yesterday, in between all the live shows, and this morning I haven't been cleaning. So a lot, But you know what? It was great. Isn't it great to get clutter free? Sometimes I had so many projects going on and you cut, sew and throw, sew and throw, sew and throw, right? So sewing had to get cleaned up, or else if it's too cluttered, I can't get anything done. Thanks, Glenda. Thank you. All right, let's see. Any other questions for me? Trisha, no, you weren't having a migraine. Do you sew front to back or back to front on your armband, or does it matter? Doesn't matter. As you saw, I started just away from my underarm, went all the way around until I got back to the underarm, and then did that little stretch at the end. Marcy, the shoe protects your fabric from the heat of the iron. Yeah, so I've even been able to use that iron shoe with steam and steam fabrics like faux leather. It protects the fabric. It's like, I call it the miracle to add to an iron. I never take my iron shoe off anymore. And even my other iron that I showed you over there, I've had that for years. That one's only like $99 or something. And it has the big water on the wall. I used that before I started using Laura Star. That came with an iron shoe. And I'll tell you what, it's just fantastic. Once you have an iron shoe, you don't have to use press cloths unless, well, sometimes I still might, but usually not. Yes, if you're using binding on a woven, cutting it on the bias would be beautiful. Okay, anything else? I think I got everybody's. Mary, that's a good idea. Starch works great if you have a difficult fabric. So Jackie, it will give you stability for interfacing, but if you're using this is like a top like I'm wearing here. If I put that in, I would be able to see that interfacing. So you don't really need stability. You want this to stretch to put over your head. Now, if you're talking about more of a structured style top, that's a whole different story. I'm just talking about casual knit tops like what I'm doing here. I agree, Janet. Oh, thanks, Darlene. I don't know if it's wisdom, but what was the word for today? I already forgot. Gaposis. I don't know if it's wisdom, but it's a piece of gaposis. Wendy, did I find any surprises while I was cleaning? I did. Actually, this top was one of them. I had been wearing this and I couldn't find it. Well, the reason I couldn't find it is because I had actually put it on the table to sew, obviously sew the top since I had been wearing it with basting. But I found a lot of little fun treasures. A couple things I'm excited to finish, some embroidery projects I was working on. So what else did I do? I'll give you a little quick thing. I embroidered our hats for the boat. I was playing around with BES lettering, which I haven't used. Actually, I don't think I've ever used. I know I did a long time ago, but I was kind of going for the PE. PE Next is what I used to use, now P11. I had so much fun. So here is a picture, in case you're not on Instagram. I surprised Wynn with some fabulous boat towels. Aren't those cute? So I did the Win and Angel in BES lettering, and then the anchor design was built into the luminaire. So I'll give a tutorial on how to do that. It was really easy. Just sticky back tearaway. I did a water topper on top of there. And you can kind of see the water topper on there, which helped the loft. You know, it wasn't, they're not like towels. They're more like microfiber towels. That's what they are, like for cleaning. But now they're white and they're really spotless. So I doubt he's not gonna use them to clean the boat. We'll use them in the kitchen area when I make them lunch. I know, fun. They're really cute. I know, yes, Susan, embroidered hats are finally here with better lettering than we did on Wynn's hat. All right, everyone, this has been a great hour. I hope that you learned a few tips for that, for adding binding. I'm dying to try this on. Even if I don't hem it, I'm going to try it on. Might have to wear it to dinner tonight because this is that collar that has a little bit of a back. See how it's almost looks like a little bit of a hoodie. It's different. And I know we did this in Fashion Sewing Club. So I have to figure out what video it is. So if you want to go back and watch it, you can. Lots of tutorials coming up. All right, so that's your schedule. I told you Monday night, don't forget 6:30 is I'm meeting the ASG group. I'll give you guys a link right here if you want to join. And I know some of you are off of your lunch break, so it was so nice. Thank you for spending time with me today. And I'll put a link for this. If you're in ASG, you'll probably want to contact Darlene because there is a discount for ASG members. Here you go. I'll put it right in the comments here. Oh, Judy, I did not know that the iron shoe was built on them. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks, Evelyn. Nice to see you. Hi, Denise. Your jeans are looking fabulous. Thanks, Shirley. So nice to see you all. I see some new people in here too. Welcome to the party. All right, so that's for Monday at 6:30. Tomorrow, Thursday at noon is a brother show. There's a panel of educators. You don't want to miss that. 2 o'clock tomorrow Eastern is Fashion Sewing Club. We're going to be sewing that cool collar that we made last week. See, I don't think I have a photo on my phone for that, but it'll be going out in the newsletter. And then I think that's it. I think that's enough. That's a lot for a week. All right, everyone. Have a great day. You can always message me. I look at your comments tonight, even after the live show. So thanks again. Until next time, happy sewing.